Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things Bharat with your help, and I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And in today's video, it's going to be part 2 about a video on the future of India's energy. Very fascinating discussion. I am super dying to get back to the video. But before we jump into the part 2,
please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
Let's get into it. Let's start where we left off.
You mentioned the sedimentary basin. So is this located onshore or offshore?
It is offshore.
I see, it's offshore.
Offshore.
All right, got it. So this global biofuels alliance that India is championing, can you speak about that a little?
And very happily. You see, when I was ambassador in Brazil, I used to go to an organization called Unica. Unica is the Brazilian cooperative entity for all biofuel manufacturers, ethanol manufacturers.
Okay.
One of my first conversations with the president of Unica, and I think the year was 2006, was that, Ambassador, how I wish if India takes to biofuels, India starts manufacturing ethanol. I said, why do you say that? He said, Brazil and the United States are already here, but the United States is not going to be making ethanol except for its own use. But if India could join, India, Brazil, United States could actually end up forming a biofuels equivalent of OPEC.
Okay.
OPEC are the manufacturer, not the producers of fossil fuels, those who have the most, like, the countries of the Gulf, etc.
Yes.
And you could do it, and we could make a great success of it in terms of making biofuels an internationally traded commodity. Well, that idea remained with me. At that point, the government in Delhi actually wanted to move to biofuels. And they set themselves a target of blending in 10 of our states and union territories.
Okay.
Which worked out, and they didn't succeed to 1.4. Because if you want any transformation of like that, you will have to produce the ecosystem whereby the producer will get a remunerative return, somebody will take it. Look, there are problems all the time. Even now, there's a problem with sugar. Today, I read a report, now sugar is going to be plentifully available for ethanol. But if there's a problem, they say, ethanol karo, chini must go to the consumer. And these things start working themselves out if you have an ecosystem.
Okay.
Must go to the consumer. And these things start working themselves out if you have an ecosystem.
Okay.
So from 2006 to India's presidency of the G20 and a resolute and far-sighted prime minister, we got a global biofuels alliance going. All the important international organizations of the world are a member of that. I think we've got about 28 countries or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
More are joining. Clearly, there are 193 members of the United Nations. But every country will not want to join the biofuels alliance. Only those who are interested. Because biofuels, either you produce and sell, or those who want to connect. But very interesting, some of the OPEC members are wanting to join. Because they see in this a potential. For instance, when you had the launch of the Global Biofuels Alliance in Delhi, I clearly remember our Prime Minister there. We had the Americans there. We had the Singaporeans there. We had, I think, UAE as a there, because they think that they will also move towards this thing. And we had about 8-9 heads of state and government standing there. But I think this is an idea whose time has come. And I think going forward from here, you will hear more about the Global Biofuels Alliance. The beauty of it is not a intergovernmental agreement in the traditional sense of the word.
Okay.
What happens in intergovernmental agreement is you have a lot of babus taking over.
I see.
I've been a civil servant for 39 years, so please, I don't want your podcast to suggest that I have anything against babus. But I think something like the Biofuels Alliance will succeed and can succeed only if all the stakeholders get involved. Now, we have a company in India, I'm not doing commercial, which has made and sold 1,000 biofuel plants in 100 countries of the world.
I see.
So I keep saying, why should the governments only contribute to it? It's the biofuels industry should contribute to it. And that biofuels industry will be the bigger gainer. I had an interaction during the G20 ministerial meet in Goa with the environment minister, I think, of Kenya. And she said, I've heard a lot about the Indian biofuel story. I would like you to send a delegation. So I said, instead of my sending a delegation of government officials or only the PSUs, let's get a delegation of private sector, etc. And there are such heartwarming stories. I was told that there was a trader in Ahmedabad who has supplied 1 million cooktops to Kenya.
Okay.
And what do those cooktops do? They use, because not all countries in the world are as fortunate as India is in terms of having domestic LPG connections, etc. So this trader, what he does is he sells these cooktops, and he has a counterpart there who imports 93 octane ethanol from Brazil.
Okay.
So the guy sitting in Ahmedabad is providing the cooktops. Somebody sitting in Brazil is providing 93 octane biofuel, and it comes here, and Kenya has clean cooking because ethanol is totally clean. So these are the potential, once the idea gets going, the technology, the best practices, plus it's a great boon to the agricultural sector. One of my favorite pieces of statistics is that when we completed 10% of blending at that time with the rates prevalent then, we saved 41,000 crores on import bill.
Okay.
And as a result of which we were able to pay our agricultural sector 42,400 crores. Of all the biofuel blending which we've done from the beginning to now, I think we would have saved about 80,000 crores or so. Now, just imagine that's the situation now. What happens when you do 20% blending?
Yes.
So it is virtually at 10%, you did 41,000 crores. If you do 20%, it'll be double of that.
Yes.
So it's a win-win for agriculture. Plus, it introduces economic activity. And when I was in UP, it was mind-boggling. Some of those areas which are getting the CBG plants have no other industry there.
I see.
So in a predominantly agricultural setting, if you go in and set up a CBG plant, that's when you go forward.
So energy and climate change are significantly
Totally.
Now, there's a significant need to reduce the carbon output and all that, and we have targets for 2070 and all that. What do you think the global consensus is like? Are we going to be able to achieve it? Is there progress on that front?
Look, I'm not in a position to make an assessment of how the world at large, which means 193 countries, will fare. It's not possible to highlight. I can give you 2 or 3, again, abiding impressions from my side. The Millennium Development Goals, which were set up in pursuance of work done by the OECD, which is a think tank of the West, they succeeded largely because China succeeded in lifting millions of people out of poverty.
Yes.
With a little bit of help from India, South Africa, Nigeria. The Sustainable Development Goals, which are now, we bring in the sustainable element, and the COP negotiation, they will succeed because India will succeed.
Okay.
And because India will succeed, the SDGs, which is Agenda 2030, will also succeed. A very interesting catch there. Earlier, the MDGs were conceptualized and the intellectual work was done by the OECD. So they ended up, because the OECD is the West, industrial West, it came out in the form of prescriptions, which means I sit and do my work in my office and I say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. It's a prescription, which is an absurdity. Whereas the SDGs, when I was ambassador there, we said, now we must learn from this experience. We must turn it on its head. The inspiration must come from the ground upwards. And therefore, the SDGs in India, now I just tell you, if you look at the last 10 years figures, we have succeeded in moving 250 million people out of what is called multidimensional poverty.
Yes.
People saying, what is abject poverty? But you can set any yardstick that you like. Earlier, the yardsticks would be $1 a day per person, per family. Forget it. You take multidimensional poverty in its most comprehensive form, and India has lifted 25 crore or 250 million people out of multidimensional poverty in 10 years. In 10 years. Now, by doing that and going through the biofuels, by going through the CNG route, by the work you are doing, when this, I'm referring to this only because you referred to it. You talked about net zero in 2070. Somebody said कि बहुत दूर नहीं है. I said, यार कैसे दूर है? What is the target on an average for the industrialized? 2040, 2045? You take my set of statistics. I can speak on behalf of my oil companies, OMCs. If you look at their targets, all their targets are, I think, 2030 onwards to 2045. So that 2070 is a national level target because it's a country where development is at the heart, and the Prime Minister has succeeded in taking the benefits of development, Sarvodaya to Antyodaya, to the farthest point. So 2070 is a safety catch feature. But most of our oil companies are looking at this, I think, from EIL to IOCL, they're all between 2030 and 2040, 45. And they will go totally green.
Let's move to housing and urban development. The Smart Cities mission was initiated in 2015, and you have been significantly at the core of that. What is it that makes a city a smart city? And what do smart villages have to do with this?
No, it's like this. This is a novel scheme, which, as you said, was implemented and introduced in June 2015. When we were writing the manifesto of the Bharatiya Janata Party before the 2014 election, I think not many of us were aware then, or not many people in the world were aware of what a smart city would be. So what we did was something very basic. We said in the manifesto that when we come to power, we will make 100 new smart cities. We will make 100 smart cities, which means new smart cities.
Okay.
When we started getting down to it, we suddenly realized we didn't know what we were talking about.
Okay.
Because they're already cities. So that brings your question, what makes a city smart?
Indeed.
So we followed two primary. We went in for a system of election.
Okay.
We invited all the countries. There are many cities in the country. I think the total number of statutory bodies were 4,800 or something like that.
Okay.
So we were only making 100. So we called a competition. Let every city, apart from the capital city in a state which could get a preferential treatment, tell us what you would want to do in a smart city. Give us a number of projects.
Okay.
So we followed two examples. One is area-based development. So Delhi is a very big city, but the New Delhi Municipal Corporation, NDMC, New Delhi is a smart city.
Okay.
So what does it do? It has smart garbage collection. It has smart X, smart Y, smart Z, so on. That's it. The others, so out of 100, 90 became area-based development and 10 became greenfield, which means where there was no city, like New Raipur, that's a smart city. There we are building from. When you're building a new smart city or greenfield, it's much easier because then you're starting everything accordingly. Here you have to transform the old into the new. It's one of the most successful schemes where very little money has been spent by the government.
Okay.
And there's also, I think the total is about 200,000 crores, or 2 lakh crores. 2 lakh crores. I think 17% or something is private-public partnership, about 47,000 crores. There are about 9,000, how many projects? Most of them have been done. And the problem is it's all 100 cities didn't start at the same time.
Okay.
You conceptualized the scheme in June 2015. First tranche was in January 2016. And you were declaring the smart cities as late as 2018-19.
Okay.
So it normally takes 5 years. So many of them are ready. At the heart of the smart city is what is called an integrated command and control center.
Okay.
Where, and if you have the time, I'd like to take you to the urban observatory in Nirman Bhavan.
Okay.
Where you can see all the development projects of the country on a big screen and say what is being done here, what is being done there.
I see.
Now, in the smart cities, these were 100, but now immediately after you finalize the 100, a lot of people come and say, sir, hame bhi smart city banani hai, ye bhi karni hai. Now in the follow-up, you will take advantage of the learning, the experience, and now people want to do smart villages, smart district. A lot of people are coming up with this. I suggest you wait for the manifesto and the plans for our third term.
Okay.
That I think we will take those decisions then.
Correct. So what's the Swanidhi scheme and what is the impact of that?
It's one of the most fantastic schemes of digital and financial inclusion.
Okay.
What happened is that suddenly during the emergence, during the COVID, we learned some very bitter lessons.
Okay.
See, all our schemes started in June 2015, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Take rural and urban together, 4 crore houses. We built 11 crore toilets. We did Amrut scheme, Swachh Bharat mission. But one of the things we saw, and Prime Minister is very sensitive to the plight of those who are the most vulnerable sections of our society. We discovered that the poor street vendors, who by definition go to money lenders and borrow money at exorbitant usury rates, they borrow the money, they bring their wares, they do the commercial retailing on the footpath or wherever they can find place where they're not harassed by authorities, or they're harassed by authorities, they're still doing it. And then they go and return money to the money lender.
Yes.
So we came up with a fantastic scheme. I think it was rolled out in the year of the pandemic, 2020, May of 2022.
Okay.
And within 30 days, we had the scheme started. The ingredients of the scheme are 10,000 rupees first loan without collateral. If you pay that back, 20,000 rupees second loan.
Okay.
If you pay that back, another 50,000 rupees third loan.
Okay.
Very interesting. Most of the street lenders were actually in deep debt.
Okay.
So I suspect most of them use the first tranche of the loan to pay back their old debts.
I see.
And then they somehow managed, and then the scheme just took off.
I see.
Today, if I remember correctly, the total number of loans that have been handed out are about 83 lakhs. And the total number of street vendors is about 65 lakhs or so, have number of people who got the loan.
Okay.
Which means most of them got the first loan, have the second, and several got the third loan. We had a big mela in Delhi also where we distributed these loans. Mr. Muhammad Yunus, the Bangladesh economist, introduced it. But India is the first place where you have not only improvised on the scheme, but you've showed that it can be a roaring success. Now, what you do is, typically you go to a bank, you ask for a loan, they make it easy. First of all, people turned around and said, why would the banks do? Unke liye to kuch nahi hai isme, they're not any interest. No, I think the public sector banks did a great job. Today, the guys who received the loans, their data was taken, onboarded, and they became beneficiaries of all the other Prime Minister schemes. So you not only got a loan, you also got the benefits of the other schemes.
I see.
And as a result of which, the street vendors moved, in a sense, from the informal economy to the formal economy. And apart from moving to the formal economy, they also became people with spending power. And there's a study done by, I think, an economist in the State Bank of India, Soumya Kanti Ghosh, if my memory serves me correct, who's done a study of the credit spending of these street vendors. It makes a fascinating read.
I see. Right. So you've been a diplomat. You have a substantial amount of experience in diplomacy. How did that help in your political career and in the ministries?
No, I mean, if your question is how did I make the transition from a world as a civil servant to a politician, or from diplomacy to politics, the answer is very simple. I mean, you have to work hard there. You have to work hard. The issues are different.
Yes.
I used to work. I was the Secretary General of something called the Independent Commission on Multilateralism.
Okay.
Which was chaired by a gentleman who's very well known, Kevin Rudd, who was the Prime Minister of Australia.
Okay.
So when I became Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs in September 2017, somebody told Rudd, my friend Kevin, that Hardeep has become Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs. And, he had an instinct he said, find out how many of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals does his ministry deal with. And we were shocked. Out of the 17, we dealt with 5 or 6.
I see.
You see, the Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry was earlier 3 separate ministries. One of the ministries was poverty alleviation. And one of the goals is abject poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Secondly, SDG 5, women's empowerment. All our schemes are anchored in women-centered development. If you make a shauchale or a toilet, we built 11 crores of them. Who's the beneficiary? The girl child.
Yes.
Otherwise, the girl and the mother have to go to defecate out in the field. SDG 11, inclusive city. So I think the world of a civil servant is different. I think it gives you some training to read and write and to understand issues. But I think the rest of it is intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that every civil servant will make a good politician. I'm not even sure if I'm a good politician. But I think your question is more on the transition. And I think a lot of civil servants have done very well in their new profession. Many more have not done well.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue is a question of, you utilize what you learn as a set of skills and you bring them onto your next profession, see how you go from there.
How has it been working with the Prime Minister?
It's an absolute once-in-a-lifetime experience. By the way, I'm not the kind of person who drops names, but I've had the privilege of knowing the Prime Minister much earlier.
I see.
I've known him not only when I was a diplomat, I've known him even before I became a civil servant.
I see.
I can only tell you that in my 50 plus years of public life, I have still to come across any individual who comes even within close range. He is totally dedicated. He works, I think, 18, 19 hours a day, non-stop, 7 days a week, 12 days. But he has a commitment to the country and a passion with which he follows that. As a result of which you see the transformation in India. I mean, the India of 2004 and the 14 and the India of 2024 are very different. Mm-hmm. And the rate at which we are going, the India of 2029 will be even more different. Mm-hmm. Not the economic progress alone, but, also, I think the vision he has. Green energy is a case in point. You see, the transformation is taking place and being felt in our tier 2, tier 3 cities, in our rural areas. And I think that is encompassed in what is his vision of a Viksit Bharat. Mm-hmm. And I think that sums it up. That is now the mission statement.
Okay.
And that Viksit Bharat journey, which he started in 2014, I think it'll continue for another 5 years under his leadership. And then we'll see where we are going. Mm-hmm. But the country slowly moved from being the 10th largest economy in 2014 to the 5th largest. And I think I can say with a reasonable degree of confidence, by 2027, we'll be one of the 3 top economies.
Yes, indeed. So the elections are coming up, and Ab ki baar 400 par is what is being said. What's your message to the first-time voters? There's a very large pool of first-time voters who will come up.
I read a statistic somewhere that total now elected is about 860 million.
Okay.
86 crores or something.
Mm-hmm.
The first-time voters are very strong, large percentage of that. I don't remember. 17% somebody told me, or I don't know the percentage. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it's a smaller percent the first time, but you don't know. The point is, it's a very strong vote. I'll correct this as we go along in the thing.
Okay.
I have spent a very, very significant point of time talking to young voters.
I see.
When I talk to them, I make 3 points. One is, I wish I was 50 years younger and I was in your place. I was in Coimbatore. I had 1,500 students in an engineering college, and not only from Coimbatore, but from several other cities. Mm-hmm. And I came to the conclusion, I said, look, you're very young, because when I left the university, I had a very limited choice of what one could look for in a profession. If you were a very good student, you could become a lecturer after a postgraduate degree. There were 3 or 4 private sector companies you could join for, or did what all bright students did, appear for the IAS and try and get in.
Yes.
But I think the second more important thing is, so you're spoiled for choice.
Today, yes.
Today, you are not only entering the job market, you are actually entering an economy where you will be job providers. Look at the number of startups and all those things. But the most important thing is, 2047, that is the Viksit Bharat target, mm-hmm. is only 23 years away.
Yes.
If you're 20 years now, you'll be 43 years. You'll be in the prime of your youth. Today, you will find that you are in a position to determine what the contours of that Viksit Bharat will be. In other words, you will not only be the beneficiary of that Viksit Bharat, but you will be the contributor and you will be shaping that Viksit Bharat. I think that is the main thing.
Right. Final question: what can we look forward to in the next 5 years? What sort of development?
Well, I'll tell you something. This is a very this kind of government you don't get very often.
We do not.
We're already looking at what are the actions in the first 90 days. Some of it will come out in the manifesto in terms of overall program. But I think every ministry has already been tasked with the job of providing a blueprint. I can't second guess. I can tell you in my two ministries, we will be going for an expansion. There were some schemes we couldn't get done. Today, because we are in a code of conduct, I can't speak because your show will be telecast or you'll go on YouTube, and I'll be violating the code. But I think on each front there are some fascinating things which are due. Carrying to its logical conclusion the programs we've already started, many new programs, some of them already being talked about in the press. No matter how much we try to keep them under a lid, but at the end of the day, good ideas have a habit of finding expression.
Indeed, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wow, what a fascinating conversation. I don't know how you guys enjoyed it or not. Let me know what you thought of this interview, but I found it really fascinating. Now, I think that in a way, when we are trying to understand cultures, we're always trying to find some similarities or differences and look at it from that angle. I guess that's the only way. Right now, I think human mind works, right? Like if you're learning different languages, boy, does it help if it sounds familiar, right? So, which aids your understanding. So that's also where I'm at times coming from. And let me just say, what I admire and what I like, at least based on what I hear, right, in this video, is about a vision for the country. And this is the reason why I really like it. And I'm like, yeah, kudos to you, is because I don't feel that we have something like that in my country. And it's pretty disappointing. It's like, be an automobile basically manufacturer, there is no long-term vision. There is more like a what you would call a tactical vision, like we need to develop this because it's in need, but no one is looking on vision for like 15, 20 years, and it feels like you guys have that. And in the most what is the best word to use? In the most positive way, I am jealous, and that is how your country is forming. I think it's really inspirational because I feel it speaks to the hearts and minds of people, and I would love to know how you guys feel about that on your end. But boy, I wish we had something like that over here. So yeah, kudos to you. I think it's it helps. I quite like how he talked about how he speaks to the youth, and it's visionary because it's true. But I'm sure for all the young people here, let me know if that is motivational for you, because it just it just gives people hope, and talks to the opportunities are limitless, and you get to co-create your country, which I think is a very, very powerful message to share. Now, going back to the other parts of the video, I did not know New Delhi. You got like a smart whatever collection. What is smart about New Delhi? It sounds pretty fascinating. I think I've been on one conference over a year ago now, and they were talking about smart cities and how to. There were people from the Netherlands coming to Slovakia, and they were talking with a kind of the head guy of the capital, Sadiq Khan is to London. I can't now. The mayor of that's the word I was looking for, and they were talking about how they do the smart cities in Netherlands and what it means for here. I didn't stay and didn't watch that particular one because I had more other interesting talks to go to. But wow, I did not realize that, even you're reformatting the old cities. I was aware about the smart cities, and with that you're building. And with that, I want to ask, is here anyone that's viewing this video that's in the comments can let me know about, hey, are you kind of living in one? or are you living in nearby, or are you in part of like development of that? And kind of like, how is it built? What is the structure? What are kind of the premises? He talked here in the video a bit about like how they brought in people together, what that would be a good one, and it's easier to build it as a project greenfield, etc., which I understand one project is being built, but I don't know if there's anyone living there or nearby works there and could speak a bit more. I think it's quite a fascinating topic to understand what like a proper ground up city can actually look like. So yeah, please do let me know if any of you are here. And yeah, what I'm just looking at my notes if there was anything else. And yeah, I just have a note about you guys are really moving at speed. Like, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And you know how there is a saying, don't underestimate what you can do in a day, because it just really, the compound effect adds up. And he was talking about the transformation of India and stuff like that. It's incredible. And I think like for you to be able to move at such a speed, you have to have right people in the right places. Let me put it that way. So it is a fascinating story of India. You know, all fingers crossed for you. He was also talking about, you know, the creation of opposite to OPEC. You know, like being one of the major biofuel producers. Wow, I mean, I think it takes time to sink in certain information, right? Like, what is the world that we are entering? How is this going to happen? Wow. I'm just all overall impressed. I would love to know what you guys thought of this broadcast and how India is moving forward within the energy field. Let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video with me. If you did enjoy, please give them up, share, like, and subscribe to this channel. And I'll see you next one. Until then, please do take care. I'm sending lots of love. Bye-bye.